Hi, everybody. I am Debbie from MadameStitch, and I am here today with Melanie of Simply Melanie Jane. Hey, Melanie.
Hi, Debbie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good. I have invited her to sit with me for a few minutes and just talk about the fabulous square that she designed for the 2024 Granny Stitch sampler blanket, which, as you all know, this is the 11th square, so you're not newbies to this at all, but it is a collaborative blanket where we take the Granny Stitch and we do fun things with it to mix it up a little bit. And I'm so happy that Melanie decided to join me again this year. And here she is. So we're going to get started, Melanie, if you're ready. Before we talk about your square, I'm just hoping that you'll share a little bit with the makers about you, about anything that you think they might be interested in, and tell us a little bit about your business, Simply Melanie Jane.
Sure thing. I originally started out actually with a different business called Timel Crochet. That's how I got started in the crochet business, and that is mostly based on dogs because I worked 30 years in the dog industry, 20 in an animal shelter, and 10 in a doggy daycare. So that's why I got pretty much
Wow.
started in the dog industry. Um, so though that business, I do have some patterns on there, but I do mostly now only, I'm actually a maker and make small dog hats that I sell in the wintertime. So those are pretty popular in the winter. So I keep busy with that on that business. Simply Melanie Jane is all about home decor and fashion accessories with texture. I really love texture. I love learning new stitches and incorporating that into my designs. Um, in my other life, I am the hair donation program coordinator at Wigs for Kids. It's a nonprofit that supplies hair pieces to children suffering hair loss from any medical issues. One of the things I do is I get to open all the ponytails that come in that get donated. So
Wow.
it's a very fulfilling career. I love it. The people are great. I love helping. So it's great that I get to do that. I've been doing that for
I
like
just
four years.
I just love that you do that. It just sounds so rewarding and absolutely a necessary thing for those who are suffering from a cancer diagnosis or something else, right?
Yep.
Um, how did you how did you make the switch from your original business of doing things for dogs to Simply Melanie Jane? Was it a natural progression, or did you make a conscious decision? How did that come about?
So I kind of decided that I didn't want to just do patterns that had to do with dogs. I wanted to be able to try other things. So instead of putting that all in one and having like so many different things, where instead of I made a niche with another business that just focuses on home decor and fashion accessories. That way I can make what I want to in that, but I could still also do any dog patterns if I wanted to.
Sounds like a win-win to me. All right. Well, we're here mostly to talk about the square that you designed for the blanket. I love what you did with the square, taking really just the traditional design and mixing it up with a little bit with just another stitch. So could you tell everybody how you came up with your design and why you chose the cluster stitch to be the partner with Granny Stitch?
All right, I'm going to be a little honest. The math for squares kind of intimidates me. So I'm sure I could probably do it if I really sat down and tried. But all these beautiful squares I see, I'm like, how do they do that? I just don't know how to
I'm right there with you.
do it. So I
If it's
wanted
not divisible by three, I'm in trouble.
so I wanted to pick something that was fairly easy and was more like the granny square, the granny stitch. So that's why I did pick the cluster stitch because I thought that would be the easiest to figure out the math on. So that's pretty much the simple reason why I chose that.
What's really fun about it, I love the fact that you chose 2 colors to make it in because it really highlights the 2 different stitches. I think if you I mean, people can do it in one color, that's not an issue, but I think when you do it in one color, it loses a little bit of that contrast with the 2 stitches because they are very similar.
Mhm.
One, however, the granny stitch fans out and the cluster stitch pulls in, so you get that difference there, and that's a great way to add a little bit of texture without a lot of fancy stitches.
Right. After I finished it, it felt very mesmerizing kind of to look at it too,
It
the way
did, it did.
it
Yeah, and it's great. I love the fact it's funny, how none of us really talk about what we're designing with our squares. We just kind of do our own thing, and we collect all the squares and see what hatches. And I think this square is just a really nice, simple, elegant addition to the blanket. It's not frilly, but it adds some character in the square to the entire blanket. I just love how it looks. Um, all right, so the cluster stitch that you've used is almost a reverse of the granny square. It's, I mean, the granny stitch. It's 3 double crochet together
Mhm.
instead of 3 double crochet separately. And it's I love the fact that they're related, but they're not.
Right, right. Yeah, it's nice that you can just do double crochet through the whole thing, but
Mhm.
it doesn't get kind of boring because you are switching back and forth between them.
Yeah, you do have to pay attention a little bit. All right, so it's not a complicated design, but there are things that we want our makers to pay attention to. So do you have any tips for anything in the pattern that you think they might need to look out for?
Well, they just do need to pay attention to the difference between the parentheses and the brackets, just where
Mhm.
things are going. But my biggest tip would be because they are alternating, and if you do need to make your square a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, you can just leave off a row of one of those and then do the single crochet border to get your 12-inch square, or as close to the 12 inches you can get.
Yeah, at this point, they know the average of all of their squares, so it's easy to adjust this one to the size that they need for the rest of their blanket. I'm also going to encourage everybody to block the square
Mhm,
when they're
definitely.
done.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be blocking every square, right? Just because it evens out the square. But I think this one in particular helps just get the square to lay completely flat and
Mhm.
even out those corners so that they fit in. So blocking is a must.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Anything else that you want them to know about your square? Do we see this in any other design, or is this a unique to the Granny Stitch sampler blanket?
It's the only thing I've done with it so far. I will say that last year's square, I'm currently trying to incorporate into making a blanket with that. So I
Yeah,
don't know when that
that
will be
was
coming out, but it will eventually be coming out.
now. If I refresh my memory, you did that one. That was herringbone, wasn't it?
Yes, so it was rows of the granny stitch and then rows of the herringbone and then rows of the granny stitch again.
I love that herringbone stitch. It's just, it's again, it's very subtle, but it adds this look to the fabric that's
Mhm.
very unique. I love the herringbone. I want to use that in more designs as we go along. I don't know how you would incorporate that in a granny square in the round.
Right.
It's yeah, it could be a little wonky, but if you work it in rows, I think it's a wonderful stitch.
Yes. Yeah. I love how it's got that little slant to it. And to
Yep.
me, sometimes it looks a little macrame ish,
Hmm.
especially when you use cotton with it.
Well, I'm excited again to have you as part of the blanket. Always fun to work with you. I've done some collaborative stuff with you, and you've done some stuff with me. I just love doing some projects with you. So, I want to thank you for being with me today, and encourage everybody to check out your website, simplymelaniejane.com, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, because you've got, like you said, home decor and wearables and all of that kind of stuff that I think my crowd would be very interested to see. So I hope they come visit you. So thank you, Melanie, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me in your blanket again. It was a pleasure making the square and participating.
It is a challenge, isn't it? Take the granny square and go. I love it. All right, we're going to say goodbye for now. If you have anything that you need to ask about this square, any other square, just make sure you pop in the Facebook group or contact Melanie if you need any help with your square. So for now, happy crocheting and have a great time with this square. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.